My guest today is more than a sports broadcaster you've seen on TNT. She's one of my dearest friends and a force for good in the world. Allie La Force has stood on the sidelines of March Madness and the NBA playoffs, but her most meaningful work happens off the court through helpcurehd.org. After Huntington's disease touched her family, she and her husband Joe Smith decided to take action, funding IVF so that families can end this devastating disease in their bloodline forever. We talk about the realities of HD, the emotional journey of IVF, and the 170 families they've already helped, and counting. I'm your host, Katherine Jelinek, and this is the Expanders Podcast, presented by The Skinny Platform, the place for entrepreneurs with something to share and who want to be heard. Okay, everybody, this is my absolute delight. I get to introduce you to one of my best friends of all time. We have known each other since high school, but today is not that story. I am so excited to get to welcome Allie La Force. She is, along with being one of my best friends, a lead reporter for TNT Sports. You may recognize her from March Madness or college football or other studio hosting. And she is also the co-founder of helpcurehd.org. Welcome, Allie.
It's so good to be with you, my dearest friend in the whole world. I just wish I could tell you, but this will be close enough.
I know. We'll be near each other pretty soon here.
Soon, yes.
So the first step in our discussion today is to talk about Huntington's disease, which is the mission-driven background to help cure HD is help cure Huntington's disease. Just tell us first, what is Huntington's disease for the listeners that might not know?
Thank you for even helping me spread the word about this, because with everything I've done on the sports landscape, whether it was working a Final Four or a national championship game or the NBA playoffs or hosting NBA All-Star, none of it has been as fulfilling as this chapter of my life and my career. And I say career because my husband and I have really taken this under our wing and created our own national foundation now for the last 10 or 12 years called Help Cure HD, which you mentioned. It's for Huntington's disease, which a lot of people don't know, but a lot of people can relate to. It's a neurological disease that slowly takes away your motor skills and your memory at the same exact time. I say slowly, and that's all relative, because to the families that are involved in it, it happens very rapidly. And it normally happens in the prime of life. Joe's mother passed away around 60 years old, but she was diagnosed in her mid to late 40s with Huntington's disease. But there are juvenile cases of it, and some people experience horrible symptoms in their 30s. But imagine, working your whole life and you get to the point where you're thinking about retirement and you're thinking about holding your grandbabies, but that's all taken away from you. You can't drive, you can't cook, you can't hold your grandchild. That's what we watched her go through, but they call it the devil's disease, literally. And they describe it as combining Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, all into one. And so it's violent. It's almost like a demon takes over your mind and your body at the same time. And then in the snap of a finger, you're gone. And it's mostly confusing because there's no cure and there's no real solution when someone's diagnosed with it. The full-time care facilities, the people in there don't know how to handle this disease. So there are patients that are often going through these horrible outbursts of anger and frustration, and then they pop back into what is considered somewhat of a normal realm of their own reality, but it's too late because the homes are transferring them to psychiatric units, and they also take out a lot of their anger on their loved ones. So it's really difficult for family members to keep them at home. And so there's no real answer for this cause, but that's what we're here for. And that's what I think we're going to be talking about today, which excites me because it is a cure in its own way.
Yes. Thank you for the hope in the, where we're headed. But to just sit squarely and actually look at this and have listeners really understand what it is, especially if they've only heard it in passing, didn't really know the full extent of what that really means. Yeah, devil's disease sounds aptly named. That's a lot. And the violence and the loss of the person's personality is sad because, as you said, they're gone before they're gone.
Yeah, and it's the trifecta because it's physically, ripping every skill you've developed your whole life away. It's emotionally crushing you and every family member. It's financially impossible because of what home health care costs and what these facilities cost. And you can't even really keep someone with HD in a facility because the violence can be so damaging. And then there's a fourth factor too, which is the fact that it's a dominant disease. So every child of a person with Huntington's disease has a 50% chance of going through the exact same thing that their parent did. And so we've met a lot of families where there's 8 kids and 6 have tested positive, or 4 of 6 have passed away, or 3 or 4 are positive. And so it leaves you with a lot of big decisions, knowing you could pass it down to your siblings. Should we have kids? If so, is it irresponsible? Is it safe? How do we do this? What's the right decision? Do we want this to continue on in our family line, or do we want to end it, but then also sacrifice never having our own family? And so people really struggle with that decision. And that was something my husband and I really struggled with too. He didn't know if he wanted to have children, if he had tested positive for it. So his grandmother had passed away of it, his mother passed away of it, and my husband has a 50% chance of having it. But
Right. Well,
what
for everybody listening, Joe
yeah,
doesn't know. Yes, Allie.
yes, exactly. My husband Joe does not know. He had a 16-year Major League Baseball career, and just the toll that and the pressure that that took on mentally, and then having the extra layer of like, what if I'm losing my physical abilities and my motor skills and putting my family at risk and in danger? And so a lot of people don't talk about the the mental health part of Huntington's disease. They talk about the physical, the emotional, the financial, like I did. But the mental health part too was perhaps even more damaging if he were to be tested than if he was not going to get tested. And so we actually decided to, with the help and some guidance of wonderful doctors, to go through IVF, or in vitro fertilization. We're so fortunate because the Huntington's disease was discovered. And so therefore it can be tested, and therefore we can eliminate it from our family forever if we transfer embryos that are negative. So obviously, for those that don't know about IVF, which is an extremely confusing process if you don't know about it.
Most people have heard of it, but even I don't think anybody knows unless you really have gone through it. So those who
Exactly.
don't really know.
Exactly. Because some people do it so they can prolong their careers. Some people do it for infertility. We're doing it for genetic testing for a deadly disease. So yes, it's becoming more common for people to talk about, which is beautiful. People should
Mhm.
be able to talk about those things.
Yeah, but real quick on your story though, to like clarify with the Joe side, you're going in, you're doing IVF even though you don't know if he doesn't even have it. And
Correct.
you force the doctors to sign documents where they're not going to disclose one way or another. All they're
Exactly.
doing is confirming that the babies and the embryos that you have fertilized are healthy. And
Exactly.
that's it. So you're knowing that you're avoiding it, but you still don't want to know for the sake of Joe's mental health if it's a yes or a no.
Exactly. We're not genetically modifying in any way the embryos. We're just selecting the healthy ones. And it was non-disclosure testing. So that way, for example, if I made 8 embryos and only 3 were usable, we don't know that those other embryos had Huntington's, or if they were not usable for any of a million different reasons, that going through the IVS process, people eliminate embryos for just for being unhealthy, unusable. They might have had chromosomal abnormalities. I mean, you never really know why they're eliminated, but we just know that the ones that they told us we could use absolutely 100% tested negative for Huntington's disease.
Yes. And like here, some of the fun, hopeful part of this conversation, especially relates to your family, is you do have a sweet son already. And he is like almost 2, right?
He's 2.5.
2.5, dude. Okay, so he's coming up on 3 in November. How does time fly? Oh my
I
God.
know. And we're currently pregnant with another boy. So I'm trying to catch up with you and be the
Yes.
most badass boy mom I can possibly be.
I don't know about that, but we can definitely swap boy mom stories and it is real.
It is real. I know. Trust me.
Oh, and it's so good just to relish those days with the sweet one, and the 2 is going to be awesome. Oh my God. So everybody, look, I mean, you've already got it. You've got healthy children. You're enjoying this family life. Before we talk about the magnificent mission that you and your husband are on together, I want to just step back. And in your relationship, when you first met him, when did he first talk about this? Like, how soon did he bring this up?
It was pretty early on. I remember he asked me, if I have Huntington's disease, would you still want to be with me? And
Hmm.
that is such a powerful question in an early relationship. It really makes you question yourself. Um, it, it it really makes you look in the mirror and say, like, what kind of person I am. I mean, what kind of person am I? You know, am I selfish? Am I judgmental? Am I precautionary? I mean, I was really fortunate growing up and unfortunate because we had lost family members to diseases that really showed me the strength of our faith as a family, that showed me the power of God and the strength in loss and what loss can really bring out in a person. And it always brought out the best of our family. And when we
Mm.
lost my cousin, and I feel bad because I don't remember his exact age, but he was like 15 or 16 years old, and we lost him to leukemia, and it was the most powerful thing that had ever happened to our family before. I had dated a guy in high school for multiple years that had type 1 diabetes. I had watched him go through seizures and low blood sugar episodes, and I had stuck him with needles. And as I was going through the list of people in my life that were important to me, they all had significant problems that we just overcome as a village. And so, what makes Joe any different? And knowing that, yeah, there's a possibility he could have it, but it's just a 50% chance. And so, betting on the what if when there's so many other variables that can affect the outcome of our day to day, our day tomorrow, our life in general, and none of us knowing the way that we're going to exit this world or this life, and certainly not being able to pick in any capacity. I thought, who am I to judge and to leave him for the what if, the what could be. I just knew that he was a great man and I loved him, and that the risk of Huntington's disease wasn't going to stay in the way. But it was something that he wanted to make sure I knew up front, and he addressed right away. And then the other side was his mom developed symptoms pretty quickly after we started dating. So I was going to be watching the onset of what could be his future.
Yeah, well, that's pretty heavy right from the get-go.
Yeah. It was interesting. I avoided talking about it a lot in the beginning of our relationship, but then I realized the more I talked about it casually, for as uncomfortable as that was in the beginning, it really brought us closer together and it allowed us to face our possibilities and realities in a more casual way. So I do apologize because I do talk about this heavy disease really casually now. And I don't want it to come off as insensitive, but we have exhausted the conversation um, to a point where it's helped the health of our relationship when it comes to talking about it. But I can come off pretty casual when I speak about it, though.
Well, I don't think you need to apologize for anything. This is your reality, and you've got to get your hand. You know what else makes me feel really the good things is hearing about your reflection on everything health related and impacting in different relationships throughout your life, and how it's only brought human beings together and brought out more good even in the face of bad. And that's always true. And that's the fact that, look, at you don't even know what's going to happen with Joe, but what you've created even from that possibility is huge. It's got so much positive impact on this world. So let's talk about that now. Let's talk about Help Cure HD, where your inception of this even came from, and everything else. So, like, how did it start? When did you decide, hey Joe, we should do something?
So we had been giving money to Huntington's research for a while, and Joe always says research will be the cure. I mean, that's what's going to cure Huntington's disease. But we couldn't see directly where the money was going. And
Mm-hmm.
when we went to go through IVF to make sure our children didn't have Huntington's disease, we were asked right up front, our very first try at an egg retrieval, which is the first step of IVF before you even get to genetic testing. We were asked to swipe a credit card for $20,000. And without Joe, I couldn't have afforded that at the time. And I knew most family members on his side and on my side would really struggle to make that payment. And we just did it so casually. And we had all this guilt that day. I mean, I was crying, and we felt really conflicted and confused and guilty. And it was pretty shortly after that we decided to give all of our fundraising dollars to provide this service for families that can't afford it. And we started Help Cure HD just for that. And it was really interesting because we were terrified. We didn't know if we could afford one family, if it would work, how we would put a family through IVF. It's such a complicated personal process. But it worked out. We took a leap of faith. And to date, with the help of a lot of great individuals and a lot of big donations and a lot of big hearts. We have funded 170 families to eliminate Huntington's disease from their family forever. And so it's really cool because the number 170 is misleading because when you go through IVF, you can create multiple embryos. So say, 170 people on average made 3 embryos. Some made one, some made five, some made four. I mean, that we're talking over 300 families that have been saved from this disease, 300 babies that have been saved from this disease, 170 families. So we hope we're just getting started, but
You are just getting started. Every time we talk, it's like that number increases significantly. So,
yes, yes. And like you and I have talked about this too. Like IVF should be it should be covered by insurance. And if it
yeah.
was covered by insurance, then everyone could afford this and healthcare HD could dissolve, or we could focus on like genetic counseling and family support and emotional support and not actually the funding side of it. But it's not covered by insurance. And so many can't afford this process. And the research is nowhere near a cure for Huntington's disease. This is literally curing it one family at a time, and people aren't talking about it, and it's not being supported by our government or by our insurance companies. And so we're trying all the different angles, but why we decided on this is we could touch it right away. We could see exactly where our dollars were going to, and we could meet these beautiful families and shake their hand and say, you don't have to worry anymore. And it was the most fulfilling, it still is the most fulfilling feeling in the whole world.
Yeah, that gets me really emotional because there's nothing like those worries and fears as like a new mom and wanting to just be able to like give your child every chance in the world and
You'll never
the
forget
fact.
that first fever, right? Like the first time that
Yeah. Or the first thing that anything happened, like you're
yes.
pregnant and something occurs and you're like, what the hell's going on? I don't really understand.
I've already been to the hospital 4 times in this pregnancy. It's crazy. It's
Oh man.
terrifying. Yeah, it is. But
Yeah.
people are so strong. I mean, even just I thought the Huntington's disease part was going to be the hardest part of this, but then I went through IVF and I had to do 3 egg retrievals, a miscarriage, a DNC, and then I had Jacob, and he was beautiful. But I bled multiple times in that pregnancy, and in this pregnancy I'm 6 months pregnant, and I've already bled 3 or 4 times. I've been in a hospital in Houston, New York City, Ohio. So I'm with you. It is such a roller coaster. But like you said, the more you share your story, which is why what you're doing is so beautiful, the more you realize you're not alone, and the more the resources just start coming out of the woodwork, and you realize that you're part of this beautiful village of support and care and love. And so you're so much a part of my village. But
Oh, back to you. And the fact that that can be virtual in this day and age is so great. But let's have it in person too, huh?
yeah, exactly.
But to the side is that is what we need this day and age, and especially for families who are facing something like HD that so many of us don't know about unless they don't have a friend like you in their lives where they have to encounter it personally. But when you're facing something like that, you need even more from the village, and the fact that you're able to actually fund something like IVF, which real quick crazy tangent, the insurance and the government and everything not covering that. Well, it's a business case for there to be more coverage for that, because think about what people with HD are on the medical system later on. I mean, and the fact that most families aren't going to be able to cover that, so it's going to come out of the public somewhere somehow.
You're exactly right. The cost of their care is far more significant in the stages of their disease onset than it is going through a couple of rounds of IVF. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the number of healthy babies that you have so far through this?
We're right around 50 born.
Oh my God.
So,
That
and that
is
doesn't even include all of
incredible.
them. Yeah, it's really it's really amazing.
That's
I've
amazing.
gotten
And
to
how
hold
many years?
them, and I feel like they're my own children.
I can
You know,
imagine.
but then the parents are always like, "Yeah, take them." So it's really fun to have those little moments with my HD angels.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you've only been at this how many years, Allie?
I mean, probably 8 years.
Well,
And
you know.
we've been giving longer, but we weren't doing our grant program for that long.
Mhm.
So we started it a few years before COVID, and then in COVID it was really hard because a lot of the clinics were shut down, and families weren't comfortable going in public, obviously, and going through surgeries and procedures, and a lot of people weren't working. But we continued the grant program on through that, though, and it's been successful ever since. And we don't plan on stopping. We have a very long list of applications for qualified people that really need help. So it's really just about how much money we can raise. So we have a couple events per year that help us do that, and then we take the money from those, and we say yes to as many as humanly possible to make sure that we can make as many beautiful generations without Huntington's disease happen.
Okay, yes. So this is where we talk to the functional part of how like the audience anybody can support. Are you able to say yes to everybody at this point, or do you actually have to turn some away because you're looking to continue to fund? Your
We're
awareness is
them
building, which
away
is great, and the
with
families know about you.
we went a couple years where we didn't have to turn anyone away, and it was the coolest feeling. But the word of mouth is spreading. We
Mhm.
haven't done any paid advertising yet in terms of trying to get the reach out. The community is so desperate for help that the word has spread, and our application numbers have increased by 30% every application cycle. So
Wonderful.
yeah, we'll probably have to like decide on a cap number of how many families per year we're going to accept, but we're going to just keep the fundraising rolling until we can really just maximize our potential there. So we're trying, we do a golf outing every year in Florida in December. And then we're also doing a big event in Boston at Fenway Park this year on September 15th. The Boston community for Huntington's disease is over the top incredible. They have hundreds of offices dedicated to Huntington's disease research and great IVF clinics there. And the sports teams are incredible. We have friends on the Red Sox, and the Celtics have been really great for the last 3 or 4 years. So we'll have athlete support and celebrity support and medical community support. So we're really hoping it goes well, but it's our first ever Boston event. So it should be fun. But we are not shy about asking for dollars at these events because we know exactly where it's going. And so the shame melts right away when when you've met these families and you know what it's going to.
Yeah, it goes straight to these babies, these 50 babies plus, and the 300 eggs, and the opportunities for families to like have a normal life in some way.
To take guilt out of their entire life. I mean, they'll be guilty about other things, but they will never live with the guilt of Huntington's disease. And it's so powerful once you've lived with someone going through it and watched someone's family become destroyed by it. It's the greatest gift we can give.
Yeah, it is. That can't be really underscored in any way. So, what kind of help besides just like funds? Like, what are you looking for to help CureHD turn into its next evolution of itself? Like, what are your edges right now as an organization?
You know, the more people that can give their services, the better. For example, we're doing the fundraising dollars, but if a doctor can donate one free IVF cycle per quarter, that's 4 babies right there, where we would just have to cover the medication. Or speaking of medication, if we can get pharmacies to do medication certificates to just cover one round of IVF medications for our families. I mean, these are all ways that we can double or even triple the amount of applicants that we're accepting. And word of mouth, I mean, you never know who had a grandparent pass away of it, who has been given this huge endowment or has become a successful business person and is looking for a worthy cause to give to. And so we've met a couple of individuals who have been big game changers for us too. So just the more it's talked about, I think the healthier we can all be. Even some of the people we've met that have already had children, so they're not even able to go through our process. They're just so excited that we're making a national stage for this, or that we're letting them know that they're not alone, or that there is hope for the future, even if it's not for them or their children directly. So I think just talking,
Yeah,
is the most powerful tool.
it is, because you get into people's hearts. I mean, anybody who has the connection to like families, the cares and worries for our children and the future generation, like you're immediately like,
Oh,
look.
done. Yes.
Yeah, and the other thing that you and I have had conversations about, so let me know as to what degree that this is still relevant or not, is the qualms of like running a nonprofit and wanting to make everything sustainable and not have to have so much pressure on a few events every year, and to find a way to make things a little more recurring. And so opportunities for that where organizations can sponsor, 2 families every year and commit to that, or just ways that they can show up and confirm that commitment year after year, where it's not so much of a burden to have to go and like throw
Absolutely.
these giant events.
Oh my gosh, a revenue stream would change the game for us, but also we've had multiple people sponsor a family. And I think that's one of the coolest ways you can give, because you know that you're personally responsible for ending Huntington's disease, which is a deadly neurological disease from a family line forever. It's so powerful. You just think about when you go to sleep at night, knowing like the way you gave wasn't just to cut a check, but it was to end a deadly disease from an entire generation. I mean, it's well, multiple generations. It's so beautiful. It's so powerful. It's so directly impactful. And so, if there's anyone out there, I mean, our average cost right now, or the average cost of IVF, we're finding is anywhere from like $30,000 to $35,000. Joe and I are $80,000 in. Some people can get it done in $20,000. But
For your own IVF journey, you're $80,000. Why is it so much more than the average?
We did an egg retrieval that was a total fail. It was $20,000 for the whole process, and we hated the hospital system. They ran us through like a number. It was really impersonal. They didn't do a proper job of checking my levels. The communication was poor. I was talking to like different nurses and doctors every time. So we switched clinics. So there's another $20,000, and then you add on my third egg retrieval and the miscarriage and the healthy embryo transfer for my son Jacob, and it was the medicine's expensive. um, so yeah, it adds up really quickly, really quickly. So we say for 30,000 you can sponsor a family
With
directly.
one egg retrieval, essentially.
Yeah, with one egg retrieval successfully. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's what you're talking about with your own experience is the fact that it's not always
Not a
one.
perfect system, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For as complicated and hard as that moment can be, it's so much less hard and complicated than having Huntington's disease and living and dying with it. And that's what I reminded myself every time I was giving myself a shot or second guessing what we were going through. Even when Joe would consider getting tested, so I didn't have to go through IVF, it was just, I'm so glad that he stuck with his gut and followed his heart, because the emotional turmoil of knowing that you have this disease is so much harder than going through IVF, in my opinion.
Well,
Everybody's completely different, but
two thoughts coming from that is one, I feel like, okay, fine, I give Joe a lot of credit, but you're still, I still feel for him because you're still having to deal with that wonder his whole life too.
oh
Like it's totally, yes, if that's like the right decision, and it is for Joe to like not know the yes or the no, but still it's not like you're not
yeah, it
getting
doesn't
that
do anything for him.
mental
Yeah,
tax every
exactly.
day.
And
Yeah.
I have no idea how much he thinks about it. I know he used to think about it a lot more. And I know when he was playing baseball, he thought about it quite significantly because he was away from his mom a lot and felt like he could have been more supportive of his dad and his family at that time. But his mom's best dream and was to, and her biggest, one of her biggest joys in life was watching him play Major League Baseball. I mean, she spent probably 4 to 5 days a week for his entire childhood, taking him to tournaments and baseball games and cheering him on. And even in her care facility, she would have the Joe Smith jersey on for whatever team he was playing with. So yeah, he struggled with that. And then the guilt of watching me go through IVF. And then, I mean, there's no way for me to even know how much he thinks about the way that it's affecting him. But I know that when he looks at our son Jacob, he feels relief because he knows that he will have not passed it on to him.
Right. Well, and the fact that he was supported by his angel mother to get to become the baseball player that he was is actually the linchpin that allowed the first step for Help Cure HD to
Yeah.
exist. Like
Yes.
let's swipe that card with no worries, and then let's find a way to do it for everybody else.
Yes.
And that's like, I mean, so yeah. I mean, Lee was already the first investor in this, having been the propelling element in
She was.
his
And she
dream.
said, "Go end it. Do what you got to do." And she couldn't believe that we could have kids without it. She was so excited, and she never got to meet Jacob, but I know that she's definitely a part of his life in a big way. And Lee is our whole inspiration. And she was so brave. She was a school teacher, the sweetest woman in the world, and she gave us like full steam ahead encouragement to do this. So that meant the world to us.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Kylie. But let's talk about you and the IVF that you mentioned this a few times, the guilt Joe has because you're the one who has to kind of bear the physical brunt of this IVF journey, and that he just feels, I know it's okay. Let's talk about you in that journey. Like, what the hell?
It was crazy because at first I was too naive to it. I was really busy and I'm like, okay, I'll just get my eggs out and do the shots and boom, boom, boom. And then I remember being in Atlanta in a work hotel and my mom was helping me mix the shots because she was on a work trip in Atlanta too. And it was so intimidating. Like, did I mix the powder and the liquid right? And how slow do I go on the needle? And then by my third egg retrieval, I was just on an airplane, mixing it up in the bathroom and shooting it in and not even looking. And it just became such a casual part of, but I remember the transition from like the magnitude of it in the beginning to the third one. Like in the beginning, I didn't drink coffee. I didn't drink alcohol during my simulation of my shots and my egg retrieval. And by the third one, I was just 2 cups a day and a glass of wine at night and living my best life. And those were my best egg retrievals, which is, I think, shows like,
Yeah.
yeah, the mental pressure and health during that and what it means on the results. But I had to learn my own way. I mean, there was definitely a lot of emotional moments like during work when I was actually hosting NBA All-Star in Charlotte, and I was waiting to find out if any of my eggs had made it to maturation with the embryos. And I hadn't heard from the doctor. This was the first clinic that I'm not a fan of. And I got a voicemail from the doctor's office right before I went on to host NBA All-Star Saturday night. And they left me a voicemail and they said, "I'm so sorry. None of the embryos made it to maturation." They told me over voicemail. And I was bawling, crying. And then I just went out, threw some makeup on, was holding back tears, hosted the whole NBA All-Star Saturday night, and went back to my room and just felt so um, confused and angry and empty. Also, I was just living my dream career night on national television. So there was a part of me that was like, why don't feel sorry for yourself, you're living the dream and you'll just try again. And so there was the fighter in me that was trying to motivate myself, and the person that was dealing with the like trauma of my failed first attempt at doing an egg retrieval. And I finally opened up about it. I blogged about it like on helpcurehd.org. I blogged the whole thing. There's YouTube channels about my egg retrievals and my miscarriages, and I really shared it all with the world. And it was awesome. Like I had mail in the NBA bubble during COVID when I had to go down to Orlando and be a part of that. There was male assistant coaches that were in the NBA that were coming up to me crying because their wife had followed my story
Oh my
and
God.
they had felt some of the guilt and some of the emotions that I had gone through and shared on some of my posting. And so they were shaking my hand or hugging me and thanking me for making them feel more comfortable and normal. And so the number of personal stories that were shared with me and the amount of encouragement and upliftingness of it made me start like feeding off of it. Like I started becoming passionate about this process instead of living in fear of it. And yeah, it eventually worked out. We got Jacob, but it was a lot of roller coasters in between, that's for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, first of all, go you for sharing that.
It was hard to pull the trigger at first.
Yeah, and you are such like an open, vulnerable, easy to share, see the positive side person, but still like that's the
It was the
you didn't
amount of opinions that, because you know how you only hear the opinions you don't want to hear.
yeah,
I mean, that's just the nature of like this world now, right? With social media and how affected we are by what everybody thinks of us from a
like the
distance.
two comments that aren't positive. Yeah.
Yeah, like the two comments when there's 100 that are positive. Exactly. So it was the comments like women are meant to be mothers, like you're working too much, that's why you failed, or um like I don't even know. My mom, and she was like the most supportive person ever through this whole process, but she said something like maybe you should drink whole milk instead of almond milk, and just really funny, like the amount of just random thoughts and advice and comments that people were giving.
Um,
They want to, it was so infuriating. But you're right, like my mom was so great. I don't even mean to throw her under the bus. That was just a really funny one time comment. But
no, no, but like the
people
everyone's
had
gonna have
so
an
much thought.
opinion.
Yeah.
And you're in a position where there's even more opinions coming at you. So how could it in the end you're in one of the most vulnerable processes of your life in terms of your own emotions and
Yes.
like hopes and anticipation and everything.
Yes,
But
totally.
that's a lot. I'm so glad, and I'm not surprised, obviously. I'm so glad you got that positive reinforcement by those who are touched. And the thing is that you're not just bringing the important light that you are to HD and Huntington's disease and the fact that if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. But the same thing goes for some degree to IVF. Like it's more
Absolutely.
known about, but it's still like this, like you're either in that world and you know what it takes or you don't.
Yes.
And people who don't know what it takes, even me, like just the what you pregnancy and birth are enough, dude. Like
Gosh,
And there's
you know,
still
when they're
enough
walking on
like
this earth, I just look around,
misunderstanding.
I'm like, how are you all born so easily? Because, and who knows? I'm sure they weren't all born easily, but when you're going through that long process of like the 9 months yourself, plus the IVF months on top of that, and all the times that I had a bleed scare, or I didn't think my transfer was going to work, or I miscarried and had the surgery, I'm thinking, how are all these babies walking around? This is not easy. This cannot be so common.
I know. That's what I thought after my first birth too. I'm like, and this is how we all got here. Like,
I'll never
no.
forget, like walking around the grocery store, looking around, even in the airports or at work. Like every time I saw a woman, I just looked at her differently and was thinking, like, "What's your story? You're so powerful. You're so strong. You're so able." And I started just staring at women differently, thinking, "Gosh, if I went through all this," and they're looking at me thinking, "Oh, she's on TV and she's dressed up and look at her cute outfit and she has so much energy," and that's what they're thinking of me. But then knowing what I went through, I'm thinking, "What about you?" As I look back into your eyes and your soul and your story, like I want to know everything that's going on with you because we're women are so strong.
I love that. What you're
Yeah,
saying is
we're
like
amazing.
you've had the chance to be able to share your most challenging journey with everyone for and with the negative two comments and the whole positive, like it's the good and the bad came with that. But then the fact that like every person we walk by, especially every woman, and you think about the path that some women are taking with like parenthood and stuff. I mean, yeah, like the unknown journeys of this magnitude that we all walk around with.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the people we have to care for, the gnarly health experiences of family members. Yeah.
Which brings me back again to thanking you for sharing stories because it is the most powerful way.
Girl, I will talk to you anytime. Recording or not recording.
I know.
Oh,
I'm gonna see you before this baby comes out, but then the next time we're gonna be drinking martinis. So we
okay.
can do
That's
podcast round two with dirty martinis.
we can. We can. Tune in for that one, everyone. No. Before we wrap this one up, I mean, what else do you want to share about Helps Cure HD? And so the event in Boston, is that something
Yeah.
that you're gathering funds for, even if you don't exist in Boston at the time? Like, where can people throw their support and their energy if they feel really captured by this discussion?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. I think the biggest thing with Help Cure HD is our events are really fun and it's a way to give and celebrate, but you can donate at any time. And like you mentioned, you can sponsor an entire family. If you're in the medical field, donate medicine or a doctor's services or whatever, like whatever way you feel powerful enough to help, even just sharing our story, right? Like clicking like and share and send, reposting, um, asking questions. Like you can reach me on Instagram in my direct messages and ask me any questions that you might have, but also sharing our story because this could be done for any dominant disease. So one of the most beautiful sports relationships that sort of became intertwined with our Help Cure HD mission was cystic fibrosis because Boomer Esiason had a foundation for cystic fibrosis and his son went through the process of IVF and had a child without it. And so they started a foundation really similar to ours through the Boomer Esiason Foundation to provide these services for people at risk for cystic fibrosis. So we have to keep sharing because the power of this is really just being tapped into in terms of how many horrible diseases we can really eliminate from this world. So the Boston event is going to be a blast. It'll be at Fenway Park on September 15th, and we're really excited about that. And we have a golf outing as well in Florida. And so helpcurehd.org has all that info. And we also have an Instagram page, Help Cure HD. So just follow, talk, share, spread the word, and all of that is so appreciated by us. And we thank you for your direct impact. But if there's a way that you want to change the world and make a change directly, we believe that this is the way.
Amazing. And I love that there's always like a family face and a future baby that you get to see and identify and know.
Yes.
And speaking of future babies, when do we get to celebrate baby brother number two here coming?
Baby brother number two is due on Halloween, so I'm hoping he either comes before or after that because that trips me out for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, October 31st is our due date, so fingers crossed that everything goes okay. I know there's a lot of things that can happen from now to then, but we're really excited. So
Yeah, like as you said, like every single person is here and this is how we get here and it's such a wild road everything through pregnancy conception, fertility, birth. I mean, the whole thing is just
I know.
full.
I know. Jake's been really cute. My 2.5-year-old, he's been like hugging and kissing the belly, and he wakes up every day. Baby's doing okay? And I say, yeah. He pretends to feed it apple juice and give it treats and stuff like that. It's like the cutest thing in the whole world. But then he goes, I'm gonna squeeze that baby so tight. I'm like, oh no, we're
Well,
gonna
not
do
quite
it
yet.
gently, okay? Yeah,
Or
that can happen.
yeah, and he'll be really excited. And then all of a sudden, what happened with our son when our second son showed up? He shows up, he gives him a kiss, and he's like, "All done."
You can go back to the belly now.
Yeah, go back. I want to come back into the spotlight and
Oh gosh, I know the jealousy factor is going to be real. That's for sure.
yeah, it's a moment. Okay, everybody.
Mama.
What's that?
I love you, super mama, super friend.
Oh, dude, I love you right back. And just want to say to everyone listening, thank you so much for listening to this. I know that you probably got captivated by this story because I do every time I get to listen to it from Allie and even hear new elements and the new number 170 families. Like that's huge. And what's the total dollar raised in your 8 years of existence now?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I don't know.
Oh
Over
gosh,
over 2 million. Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to be close to 3 million.
Congratulations,
I'd have
Allie.
to look though. That's a really great question. That gives me something to look forward to once we disconnect from this. But yeah, we're close to 3 million.
Yes, but
Yeah.
this is what it is celebrating something that's doing it. That's
Yes.
actually like connecting people with goodness and hope. And that's what this is. And it's so amazing. And I'm so not surprised, but also just totally in awe of you and the things that you create in this world, woman. So
Well, because it affects people in their prime of life, like the sense of urgency is an all-time high. So when you give us the money, you don't have to wait years to see it go into effect and to save lives and to end a deadly disease from an entire family line. Like it'll happen right away. So your dollars are in good hands if you give to us.
thank you for everything, sister. This has
Thank you.
been
I love
great
you.
getting to hear the story. And everybody, like Allie said, there's different ways to reach out, to tune into more aspects of her story, to hear about the IVF journey on her blog, on the helpcurehd.org website. And thank you so much for listening and sharing and now knowing a little bit more about this crazy disease that affects so many and the amazing ways that we can actually help stop it.
You got it, sister.
All right.
Love you with all my heart.
Love you too. And thanks, everyone. See you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Expanders Podcast, presented by The Skinny Platform. You can catch more episodes and be notified of newly released episodes by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or subscribing on YouTube. For more information on the Expanders Podcast and The Skinny Platform, visit our website, www.theskinnyplatform.com.